From the mess hall of the Joliet Correctional Facility, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two men on a mission from God, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Yeah, Blues Brothers reference. Corey, who sent it in?
That was brought to you by Super Mario Mendez. No sign of Luigi.
Ooh, from a Blues Brothers reference to a Mario Brothers reference.
We love the Blues Brothers.
All right, we're going to be recycling our openings now, folks, because we're out of openings. So we're going to be doing this for a few weeks while we aggregate the remainder of our new openings. You still got a few weeks to get them in. So if you got any new openings to suggest to us, by all means, send them in. gods@digigods.com. Send us Vox boxes, send us questions, send us your new show openings. We want our listeners to provide new show openings because you are more creative than we are.
That is true. We like to benefit from your free labor.
Absolutely. Mark, you're supposed to give me some water. Where's my water? There's my water. Thank you. It was hiding. Very good.
Yes, Wade.
Not much to talk about other than the fact that there are all kinds of interesting corporate things going on in the world of movies lately.
Really?
Well, company moves and things. I mean, like, for example, you heard this. Bob Iger's job over at Disney might be in jeopardy.
And would that upset you?
No. Not at all.
Would that make you happy?
It kind of would. No offense to Mr. Iger, who, I thought did a fine job over at ABC, but I just think Disney has been catastrophic as a film company. I know as a corporate entity, he's done a good job maximizing profits and brands and all that kind of stuff, but I think from the movie end, what I look at, I'm not happy with what I see, John Carter.
Well, because there's
I'm not happy with what I see, Jack the Giant Slayer.
Because it's mutually exclusive to say great movies and maximize profits.
Yes.
The two of those don't go well together.
No.
Sometimes they work, usually they don't.
Well,
especially when you're like, if you look at the Disney animated films, they've almost completely punted that stuff. I mean, it's all Pixar now.
Yeah, it is.
And even though, you and I were surprisingly pleased by Tangled, and some of the other Disney stuff, there are really no other classics out there.
No. Mm-mm.
And, Oz, Great and Powerful, I mean, I don't know that's it's not good enough to resurrect the Wizard of Oz thing.
No, it's a bad sign right now with movies like Jack the Giant Slayer, Jack the Giant Killer, Oz.
Well, it was Jack the Giant Killer, but focus group said we don't want Killer.
We want Slayer.
Killer is too on the nose.
Yeah.
How about Slayer? Which by the way means the same thing, but it's just not Killer.
Yeah, but Slayer was a cool metal band from the 80s.
They were awesome.
Okay.
Can you name even one Slayer song?
No.
You can't, can you?
No, not at all. But I knew a lot of people that wore Slayer T-shirts.
Yeah,
which
I
guess counts for something.
Raining Blood.
Yeah.
Seasons in the Abyss.
Look, we have some amazing world-class filmmakers to talk about today. And I'm not just talking about Steven Spielberg, who, of course, does factor in today, but I'm also talking about Fritz Lang. I'm talking about Luis Buñuel. I'm talking about Kenji Mizoguchi. This is good stuff today.
By the way,
yes.
Before we start,
yes,
this is news is a couple weeks old, but we didn't talk about it last week. The jury president.
Yeah.
This year's Cannes Film Festival is Steven Spielberg.
Yes, which I thought it's strange.
It makes you wonder which Steven Spielberg, which movies will he back? Will he back the films that are Steven Spielberg-esque, or will he try to be all artsy and back the super, obscure film? Which does he want to do the one that is really him, or does he want to do the one that he thinks he is?
I think Spielberg's sensibilities will prevail, and I think. It depends. I mean, we have yet to see what's in the competition. It's going to be very interesting. There are years where you can always guess what's going to win. Like you could have predicted that a Polanski jury was going to give it to Barton Fink. That was done. You could tell. One of the years that I was there, it was a Depardieu jury. There was just no question. The Best Intentions, by Billy August, the Ingmar Bergman scripted thing. No doubt about it. That's just totally Depardieu's sensibilities. The other Pulp Fiction one, it was an Eastwood jury, apparently very divided, and when you think about it, you're like, of course, Eastwood and Tarantino. But then there are other years where you just go, I didn't see that coming. So it's going to be very, very interesting. When we see the lineup, then I think we'll be able to kind of say, because that apparently is, and of course the rules for the jury are not as set in stone as everyone thinks, but one of the kind of things that I think is fairly firm at Cannes is that you cannot win Palme d'Or without the president voting for you. So the president has enormous power on that jury, but you can leverage that in all kinds of other ways. Like when Tarantino was the jury president, Fahrenheit 9/11 won. I don't think anybody saw that coming. And apparently,
I was there that year.
Yeah, Tarantino, would Tarantino sign off on that? Well, yeah, because I think everybody agreed to give the follow-up to the runner-up award to Old Boy, which frankly should have won that year, but.
Which is a much more Tarantino-esque film.
Much more Tarantino-esque film. So a lot of people think, well, Tarantino was willing to settle for that in order to give everybody else Fahrenheit 9/11. So the politics is always very interesting. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know what kind of a president he's going to be, if he'll make everybody meet every day or, once a week or, 2 or 3 times. Who knows? There's a lot of power to the jury position, the jury president position.
And sometimes these guys are drunk with power, Wade.
They are.
They sit on thrones with crowns. Crown of thorns.
Mark, let's. I'm going to roll off the top of the show through a bunch of Asian titles, which I know always thrills you. It's right up there with the British television for you. But you got to admit, when we got a Criterion release of Kenji Mizoguchi's Sansho the Bailiff.
Well, that's
Come
good.
on. This is on Blu-ray. This is absolutely outstanding. We've been waiting for this for so long. Sansho the Bailiff, one of the all-time great films of the Japanese New Wave. It is, Mizoguchi. For people who think that Kurosawa is synonymous with the great samurai film, I got news for you. Mizoguchi is the guy who made that happen. I mean, he predates Kurosawa, and frankly, I think he's better at it than Kurosawa. Kurosawa is better with certain things. I think some of Kurosawa's most interesting films, frankly, are not the samurai films. I think it's the contemporary stuff. Sometimes that he's,
Kurosawa?
Yeah.
Well, I love High and Low. I love that movie.
See, both of us, High and Low. We just said it. High and Low is great. That's where I think you really, really see Kurosawa.
But don't forget,
shine.
High and Low is based on an American.
It's an Ed
detective novel.
McBain novel,
Yeah.
which Ed McBain is just pulp crap normally. I mean, I grew up loving Ed McBain novels, but, frankly, Ed McBain is just all, there's a character in Ed McBain novels, Meyer, and they're just loaded with just rape scenes and strangulations and just dingy, dirty, disgusting,
let me write that down.
grungy stuff,
Love it.
And that's pretty great. Anyway, this is really, really fascinating. A bailiff in this case is not like a bailiff in the U.S. This is about a guy who is he's a governor to a lord, and he through an act of disobedience is exiled, and it just rips his family to shreds. And it is just brilliant. It is so well scripted. It is so beautifully directed. It is poetic. It is ripping. It is really extraordinary. And unbelievable extras here. The restoration, the digital Blu-ray restoration here is fantastic. It is absolutely pristine. Somehow the black they do black and white at Criterion better than anyone else does black and white. And for some reason, and I've said this for years, the Japanese black and white is always better than American black and white. And I don't know what it is. It must be the stock. I don't know who manufactured the stock, but whatever that resolution presents when you're doing digital transfer work, it just looks better and better. It's just so beautiful. Great audio commentary here from Japanese literature scholar Jeffrey Angles, and a whole bunch of interviews with people that I've never heard of, primarily Japanese figures talking about the film and its importance, and some really interesting stuff in the booklet part of this, including the 2 versions of the story that the film is based on, which I didn't even realize that there was this interesting source material, and you learn a lot about that in the audio commentary as well. So really terrific, just a great Blu-ray.
Now wait, because you were boring me, I went to the Sansho the Bailiff page on Wikipedia.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Ready?
This will blow you away.
Blow me away.
And you will go, oh my God, I can't believe this never happened. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to read this right off Wikipedia.
Yeah, do it.
In 1990, producers Robert Michael Geisler
Yes.
and John Roberdeau commissioned director Terrence Malick to write a stage play based on Sansho the Bailiff.
No kidding.
A private workshop of the play was undertaken in
Isn't that
1993 at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. It was directed by Andrzej Wajda.
Andrzej Wajda.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And a smaller scale workshop was mounted by the producers under Malick's own direction in Los Angeles in spring of '94. Plans to produce the play on Broadway were postponed indefinitely. Can you imagine a Sansho the Bailiff show directed by Terrence Malick?
Interesting.
Put it out there.
Okay.
The end.
Another great film, a great film on Blu-ray, which just got no traction in theatrical release. It's so sad. Welgo has released Anne Hoy's A Simple Life. This is such a beautiful movie, and I love Anne Hoy. She's one of the great directors in the history of Hong Kong. She's one of the few over there who's really making, like art films and dramas and, non-action bone-crushing stuff. Great performance from Andy Lau. Dini Ip, also wonderful in this, and some terrific cameos from people. If you're a Hong Kong film fan, you'll love some of the cameos, which are just absolutely delightful. And this got a lot of awards, and it deserved them. This is a family drama about caring for someone with a stroke, and it's going to tear your heart out. It is a beautiful Blu-ray.
It's sort of like
recommend.
Amour.
Oh, you know what? It's more sentimental than Amour. Amour is pretty grim. This is much more sentimental. It's wonderful. Anne Hoy is such a sweet director. She's wonderful.
Sweet.
Absolutely. Muay Thai Warrior. This is awesome. And forget about the plot. All you need to know is this is just like really grungy, dirty, bone-crushing tournament, just rip them, slam them, and just beat the crap out of them stuff. It is a Thai film from 2011, directed by Naporin Wartin. It's another guy that they just come out of the woodwork over there in Thailand. Yes, it's got a whole kind of an anti-Japanese period thing from the 17th century, but who cares? All it is. It's really just about bone crushing. And then we also have Dangerous Liaisons, the Chinese version, starring Zhang Ziyi and Zhang Donggun and Cecilia Chung. The interesting thing about this is that it takes place in 1930s Shanghai. And this is like one of those Jane Austen things. We're always trying to find new ways of taking the Dangerous Liaison story and dropping it into different contexts. I thought this was actually very interesting to translate it into a Chinese 1930s backdrop. My question was, how are you going to do the duel at the end? Like, how are they going to somehow finagle that? And actually, they do in a really interesting way, because there's a whole,
with CGI.
The World War II backdrop gives them a chance to take a little bit of a dramatic license, and it works. It absolutely works beautifully. Real quickly, a few others. Another Criterion, The Ballad of Narayama. As long as we are on the subject of
Ballads.
Yeah, ballads.
Narayamas?
I got no transition there. No, this is really, really cool. Ballad of Narayama, another famous Japanese film from the New Wave period, 1958, directed by Keisuke Kinoshita, who is didn't really have the same profile as everybody else at the time, but certainly did with this film, which is actually based on folk legend, and it's done in kind of a kabuki style, and it's just still really a beautiful, beautiful film. Absolutely brilliant. Great restoration that they did in 2011. Makes for a fantastic looking Blu-ray. Once again, just first rate all the way. This one's color. This is not black and white. And really, really beautiful color photography. And what are you going to say? It's just great. Not a lot of extras, but that's a first rate film. Absolutely first rate film. And let's see. Few other things here. No, we're gonna skip that. We're gonna skip that. I gotta skip that. You know what? This is just too goofy to skip. Incredibly Ever After. Mark, honestly, what do you think? You didn't see this, but just look at that artwork. What do you think of that? Here, I'm gonna flip it to the back.
It looks like Kick-Ass.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Maybe it is Kick-Ass.
It's not Kick-Ass, but it's
maybe it's Ass Kick.
It's kind of along the same. I don't know. If you liked Kick-Ass, you'll probably like this.
I love Kick-Ass.
Yeah, it's like a superhero kind of a spoofy thing, which is unusual for Asian films. I don't normally see that coming out of Asian films, but that's exactly what this is. Think of it as Kick-Ass with a dash of The Incredibles is what it really is. And, these aren't superheroes that you're going to know from American comic books or even Asian comic books. I think they just invented them for the movie, like Gazer Warrior and Aroma Woman. I mean, come on, Aroma Woman? How do you not love that?
Make it happen.
See? You got to love it, Aroma Woman. Anyway, what's it like being a married superhero? We saw one angle of that in The Incredibles, and this is actually quite a bit of fun. This is from Funimation, appropriately, and bravo. I think it's an interesting It's an interesting take. Let's see real quickly. Aichi Kudo's 11 Samurai. Pretty great 1967 samurai epic is out from the good people at Animego. I wish this were on Blu-ray. It isn't, but it is just relentless samurai hacking and drama and emoting, and it's really fun. Is it the same as 13 Assassins? Not quite, but it's in the same category, same league, so definitely worth checking out. I always love the warnings that they put on the back of the Animego titles. Warning contains violence and strategy. Isn't that great?
Rated PG for strategy.
Contains violence and strategy. All right, and on the Asian end, let's see. Hold on. Nope, that's it. We'll cover the rest of these another time.
Really?
Let's move on.
Wait, this film over here is funny. This film over here, the one here, this one, Smashed.
Oh, yeah.
The thing with Smashed is that...
well, fine. Shoot that to the top of the pile.
Well, I only say it because it was the first time I was ever retweeted by the star of a movie.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
I reviewed this for Box Office, and my editor at the time, our editor at the time...
Yeah?
Sent me a link from Mary Elizabeth Winstead's Twitter account saying, linking to my review and saying, here's a great review. Here's this guy knew exactly what we were after.
Right.
And I thought it was cool, especially because now I'm one step closer to sleeping with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. It was very cute. No, actually, you know what? Smash is terrific. It's a really good film. It's about a young married couple, and the wife, played by Elizabeth Winstead, is an alcoholic. And what's great about the movie and kind of refreshing is the fact that the alcoholic character here, played by Winstead, is not it's not melodramatic. There's no histrionics. It's just a story of a woman who is a teacher, and she basically gets along with her life. It's not unbelievably over the top, and yet she happens to be an alcoholic, and it's how it slowly affects her career and her marriage to her husband, played by the guy from Aaron Paul, the guy from some show I don't watch.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And that character could have been a little better drawn. But I like this film because it is everything that alcoholic dramas tend to not be. And it's great. I thought it was a terrific little film. I think that young audiences will like it because, again, it's about 20-somethings, and it's not over the top. A lot of handheld cameras, shooting on location. And it's good stuff. Smashed with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Aaron Paul, and Megan Mullally.
Yeah.
Megan Galooly. It's with Megan Galooly, Wade, who's one of my favorites.
Fine.
What?
Yes.
More Criterion goodness.
I know.
I'm a huge fan of Fritz Lang. Fritz Lang, of course, directed Metropolis, and he directed some and some great film noirs.
Unbelievable.
And also Ministry of Fear from 1944. This thing is just great. It's one of his best films. It's got a very exciting story, and it's about this innocent man who's kind of drawn into this spy story where he kind of comes in possession into this. He comes upon this microfilm, and it's based on a Graham Greene novel, and I love Graham Greene.
We love Graham
Fritz
Greene.
Lang.
Yeah.
or Fritz Lang. You can say Wade. You'd probably say Lang. 'Cause
Sure.
you're all Mr. International. Me, I
Sure.
say Lang because
Fritz Lang.
because I'm a dumb American.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ray Milland plays the guy who comes into possession of this microfilm, and it's great. It's very exciting. It's really well shot, and it's good stuff. It's classic. I wouldn't be surprised if Hitchcock was not somehow influenced by movies like this, if not this movie, because it's all about innocent men who are drawn into these unusual situations. They have to get themselves out of it.
Yeah.
And that was a staple of Hitchcock. So, but before Hitchcock, Fritz Lang's Ministry of Fear, great film. Again, so well shot. Criterion knocks it out of the park. Not a lot of extras, at least compared to their other films. There is an interview with a Fritz Lang scholar and a great new restoration. Otherwise, that's kind of it. But I love this film, Ministry of Fear. Great stuff.
Mark, I'm going to freak you out right now.
What?
Talking about Criterion. Okay. The Blob, the original Irvin S. Yeworth Jr. film, The Blob from 1958,
starring for some reason
was released on Criterion a few years back as a Criterion DVD. It is now out on Criterion Blu-ray, and I don't think people think, The Blob, Criterion? What are you kidding me? Look, very significant film, super low budget film, came out during the height of the exploitation era in the late 1950s, 1958. And it made on a shoestring, and totally successful and terrifying, great drive-in movie. Really one of those pivotal genre films of the day. They did a great 4K digital restoration on this and have given it the lustrous Blu-ray treatment like you cannot imagine. Absolutely sensational. Now, here's the thing about The Blob. You remember they remade The Blob, right?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Do you remember when they remade The Blob?
That was like last week.
I'm gonna make you feel staggeringly old. This Blob was made in 1958.
That's Steve McQueen.
That's
the Blob.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
This was Steve McQueen, who was not quite Steve McQueen at the time. That pretty much put him on the map. But the remake of The Blob was from 1988, 30 years after, directed by Chuck Russell, who was kind of a big deal action director in the 80s for a moment.
He did Chuck Russell did Schwarzenegger film.
Yeah, when he did The Mask and a few other things like that. He did The Mask, right?
Yeah. Chuck Russell, I believe, did The Mask. Yes.
Yeah. And so do the math. That's 30 years from 1958 to 1988 between The Blob and the remake of The Blob. Remember at the time we're like, boy, they're remaking like that old movie? It's been 25 years now since that remake. In 5 years, it will be as long since the remake of The Blob as it was between the original Blob and the remake.
Here's the thing.
You hate it when I do that.
I don't understand it. It doesn't make it lock in. It's like, oh my God. Like, you mean the first one between the third one is more years than the second one between the ninth one? What? What does that mean?
No, we will live in not too many more years to have seen as many years elapse between Star Wars and the present day as between the jazz singer in 1927 and Star Wars in 1977. That's only 50 years.
I don't know what that means.
It's
By
only
the
50
way,
years.
Speaking of the jazz singer...
We're not that far off.
Wait, be quiet.
We will have lived to see literally more than half of film history. We are old bastards.
Speaking of...
anyway, let me finish off on The Blob real quickly.
By the way, I'm telling you this because you didn't know this. I actually went out and bought, because I'm a nerd, this amazing new 3 Blu-ray, I think it's like 1 Blu-ray and a couple DVDs, 3-disc set definitive of The Jazz Singer.
Oh yeah,
brand new.
You know what? I'm still harassing Warner Brothers.
I
to
went
send
out
it
and
to
bought
us.
it. That's great.
All right. Well, don't talk about it on the show because I'm still trying to get them to send it to us.
It sucks.
They
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. All right. So The Blob. Also, who else had their career launched by The Blob? And wrote this awesome title song.
U2.
Burt Bacharach. It's fantastic.
Blob drops
get a couple
falling on my head.
Yeah, there you go. A couple of audio commentaries here. One with Jack Harris.
Are you going to let me borrow this? You're not, are you?
Oh, hell no.
Well, I'll see you next week. You can get it back.
Yeah, maybe. Let me think about it. Bruce Ader is on one of them with the producer Jack Harris, and then the other one is Irvin Yeworth Jr. and Robert Fields, the actor. Blobabilia is a gallery of rare stills and a bunch of other stuff, and it's pretty great. All in all, this is a lot of fun. Great Blu-ray. And now, Mark, we're going to talk about this.
Yes.
20th anniversary limited edition of Schindler's List, Blu-ray, DVD, digital copy, and Ultraviolet, all on one big spanking beautiful set. I have a feeling that Universal was hedging their bets with this. Now, obviously, the people at Universal were hoping for a Les Mis victory at the Oscars, but shy of that, wouldn't be bad if Lincoln won. Then Spielberg, we piggyback on all of this, sudden renewed interest in Spielberg, and we throw Schindler's List out there again on Blu-ray, Oscars and Lincoln, Oscars and Schindler's List, we're good to go. I'm sure that was the reasoning in electing to release Schindler's List. Now, here's what I also find interesting. Liam Neeson, star of Schindler's List, Oscar nominated for Schindler's List, didn't win. What did he do at the Oscars? Do you remember? Do you remember his role at the Oscars?
You mean in 1993?
The recent Oscars. No, the most recently elapsed Oscars.
I believe he attended bar.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of shocked because I thought it was in poor form, to be honest. Now, he accepted it.
He presented something. Didn't he present something?
He presented the clip for Lincoln.
Which he was supposed to star in.
Which he was supposed to star in. And I remember when he came out and introduced Lincoln, I just thought, really? You're doing that to the guy? Because Daniel Day-Lewis, in about 15, 20 minutes, is going to collect his third Academy Award for Best Actor in a role that Liam Neeson was supposed to play.
I'm sure they knew that.
They must have known it, and Liam Neeson certainly could have declined, but he's too classy of a guy to decline. But I just thought, people in the audience have to know this. It feels kind of in poor form. It's like, hey, would you like to introduce the movie that you missed out on?
Well,
and he declined it, I think. Didn't he feel like he was getting too old or something?
After a while, yeah.
It just
Plus, the movie was gestating for so many years that eventually you just move on. Plus,
felt
also, Liam Neeson's career is not that movie anymore.
I know.
Liam Neeson's career is now The Grey and Taken.
Yeah.
And he's become this bizarre middle-aged action star.
I know, but it felt in bad form.
Where he's probably just working out the anger he feels towards the death of his wife by beating up terrorists and French people.
Probably true. Anyway, I have to say, I like Schindler's List. I like it more now, I think, than I did in '93.
It was part of Spielberg's mid-career, I don't know where to end a movie phase.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, he also resurrects in Lincoln.
Yes.
Which should have ended when Lincoln walked down that hallway.
And those are still my reservations in it, but I will say I have more respect for it now than I did then. And I do think it is certainly, apart from the fact that he just ends it wrong, and he can't resist those redemptive, overwrought, melodramatic finales, that he can't sort of leave, some of the thematics lingering. I mean, it really should end when Liam Neeson walks out in the factory and tells him the war has ended. I mean, that's where it should end. You don't need to have him saying, I could have sold this tooth and saved another. You don't need all that. You really don't.
That was terrible.
That was just awful. You don't need that. You don't need that much emotion kind of wrung out of the, it's like the last few drips. But anyway, that being said, this is a really terrific set. And it's funny how they say meticulously restored in pristine high definition, supervised by Steven Spielberg. Well, it's not restored. There's no restoration here. It's a digital transfer supervised by Spielberg. The film doesn't need restoration. It's not deteriorating. There's no vinegar syndrome setting into the elements of Schindler's List. So it's a misuse of the word restoration, which they're using here purely for marketing reasons, and that's kind of shameless. But that being said, Spielberg overseeing this, it is the best Blu-ray that Universal has ever released. And I say that without reservation. Universal has always been very uneven in their attention to Blu-rays. I think they kind of spit them out. Some
of the 100th anniversary ones they've been doing.
Some of those are better, but this is far and away the best that they've ever had. They really gave it all the attention that it demands. It is absolutely pristine audio, especially the John Williams music. It'll just bring you to tears. I think this is the best score John Williams ever wrote. Frankly,
really?
I do.
What?
Because it's so not John Williamsy. I mean, that
Star Wars.
violin is just cuts right to your heart. It's like Perlman, man. It just cuts you wide open. It's so beautiful.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
So anyway,
Superman.
Yes.
Empire Strikes Back named the best score ever written.
Voices from the List, the documentary, is outstanding. And again, I also don't like the bookends on Schindler's List. I don't think it needs all the color stuff at the beginning and the end. I
didn't think that Saving Private Ryan needed that either.
And then there's a Shoah Foundation story, which is all about the foundation that Spielberg basically started to preserve memories of the Holocaust and World War II, which I am all for as the son of a World War II refugee. I'm very, very much connected to all of this. And, I remember my mother at the time, who has since passed away, but I remember her really being not wanting to see Schindler's List because she didn't want to relive a lot of that stuff. And I know all the stories. And indeed, I completely respect that. But for the rest of us, it is a wonderful film. And I almost would say, what would make a great double feature with Schindler's List?
The Blob.
The White Ribbon.
That's true. Very true.
I would put the White Ribbon and Schindler's List together in a double feature. I really would. I think that's a Blu-ray double feature to show your kids when they're obviously not, so young that they'll be traumatized by all of it.
Now, Wade, before we go on, I'm staring at an email right now.
Yes.
And we had mentioned Terrence Malick earlier in the show.
Yes.
And I don't know why. There was a time when this would excite the hell out of me.
Yep.
But right now, I'm not excited. Screening invite to the new Terrence Malick, To the Wonder. Why don't I care?
I'm actually going. I'm probably going to go Monday morning.
Oh, there's a Monday morning one?
Or there was a...
Well, there's Tuesday at 10 a.m.
No, it was last week Monday morning. Never mind.
No. There's one coming this Tuesday at 10 a.m.
All right. Well, then maybe that's...
Do you care?
Yeah, I do.
I heard
very
this
much.
thing's terrible.
No,
I'm afraid that Malick is so far up his butt right now. He needs to do a Rush Hour sequel.
Screw them. Screw them all.
You are going to apologize for him no matter what he does, aren't you?
Absolutely. He's the man.
He's the Malachiist.
He's the man. All right, before you get lost in all that stuff, I want to mention a couple of titles here from the Cohen Film Collection. I'm kind of transitioning over because one of them is foreign language, but I want to make a point of this. You know, the Cohen Film Collection people, the Cohen distribution people, who are fairly new on the scene, have been doing great work, not just in acquiring really cool foreign language titles, and they've got, a very, very distinctive DVD box. They got this clear packaging for their DVDs and their Blu-rays, and they're doing really good work, and they're kind of nuzzling in there along with Criterion and Kino to really represent an art film brand where you feel like, I got to own everything that they release. And they have released Luis Buñuel's Tristana, which was also in theatrical release very briefly, not too long ago, kind of a classic film re-release. This is from 1970, and it's a great film. Catherine Deneuve is just luminous in this movie. Franco Nero and Fernando Rey also unbelievably memorable. And the story is rather fairly simple. It's kind of falls in with Jane Eyre and Rebecca and that kind of literature about women who are sort of caught in unfortunate situations in patriarchal society. And Catherine Deneuve plays a woman who loses her mother and then goes to live with a guardian who turns out to be not such a great guy. Anyway, the way this transpires is great drama, it's great intrigue, and it's beautifully photographed, and really one of the most interesting films that Luis Buñuel ever did. One of the most straightforward films that he ever did, actually. It's not in that very bizarre, avant-gardist, experimental style that he was typically associated with. This is pretty straightforward, but really, really good, really wonderfully done, a terrific Blu-ray. And the thing that really impresses about the people at Cohen is that they, in addition to all of this, have gone and they acquired the Rohauer collection, which I mentioned on the Facebook page a while ago. And anyone that doesn't know, the Rohauer collection is one of the most legendary classic film collections of all time, primarily for silent films. It's got all the Keaton films in it. I mean, suddenly Kino is going to have some competition for a lot of the stuff that they have been the exclusive distributors of, primarily the Keaton films and a lot of others. Now you're going to see Cohen doing new versions of all of those films that may very well rival them. So everybody's going to be double dipping on a lot of classics, a lot of silent film classics. And the first one that they have released is a dazzler. Douglas Fairbanks and the Thief of Baghdad, the Raoul Walsh special effects classic that is still one of the most mesmerizing films of its type ever made. 1924, the special effects totally hold up. You look at this and you just go, really, in 1924, you were pulling that off. You guys are amazing. You realize what Hollywood was able to do when they didn't have computers, when ingenuity took over, and when you had an actor like Douglas Fairbanks, who, frankly, is just one of the most astonishing screen stars of all time. Like, you can tell Jackie Chan admires him just as much as he does Buster Keaton. The stuff Douglas Fairbanks does is breathtaking. The movie, from a narrative standpoint, not that dazzling, but it doesn't matter. As an effects showcase, as kind of an early demonstration of what Hollywood could do with all of the magical wonders at its disposal, it's just fantastic. And Raoul Walsh never really captured that kind of form in sound films either. So this is pretty great, pretty great. Blu-ray of The Thief of Baghdad is gorgeous, and it raises my hopes to high, 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 high levels for what the rest of the Rohauer collection is going to look like. First rate. Way to go, Cohen. They're awesome.
Wow. Wade. You really like them.
Love them. I think they're great. I'm so glad they're there. Because usually it's like, oh, what do we have this week? Criterion, awesome. Kino, awesome. What's the rest?
Unless you're lying.
No.
And you don't love it.
No.
And you just say you do.
We just get so much crap.
I know how you are.
You know what it's like. We get junk in. You look at it and you go, really? Oh, come on. Another vampire movie? Really? Oh, I'm sorry. They're gay vampires. Well, that's novel. That's novel.
That's horrible. Gosh. All right, Wade, in 19, if you remember, and if I have my dates right, in 1988, Disney released Oliver and Company. Mm-hmm. And in 1986, they released The Great Mouse Detective, I believe.
Yep.
But in 1989, it all changed. The Little Mermaid.
Damn right.
And then came a renaissance, Wade.
Oh, yeah.
A renaissance of Disney animation.
Aladdin.
Beauty and the Beast.
And
Aladdin.
Beauty and the Beast, yeah.
Lion King.
Yep.
Sort of the tail end of that, if you ask me.
I love this movie.
Is the pretty good Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I love this movie.
It's
I
really
do.
not bad.
It's terrific.
It's got Stephen Sondheim lyrics. It's not as magical as
It's
the early ones. So I feel like it's sort of the tail end of that renaissance, but it's still pretty good.
good voice casting by Demi Moore here too, by the way.
That's right.
Let me tell you really quickly before you delve into the rest of it. Here's what I really love about The Hunchback of Notre Dame and that other movie that's on that thing, that second ringer that they threw on there. Forget about it. I don't get the point. No, on the Hunchback of Notre Dame one. Yeah, there's a second film on that.
Yeah, it's a Hunchback of Notre Dame too.
Yeah, I ignore that.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, here's what I love about Hunchback of Notre Dame. First of all, I think the Alan Menken music is much more sophisticated than any of his other films. It's operatic.
I love the
big.
lyrics.
The lyrics are great, but it's
I don't
big
know that
and
there's
operatic.
yes, I don't know if there's a show-stopping song in this like there are in some of the other ones.
There's the one that Jason Alexander sings. A guy like what's a guy like me? It's very Broadway. It's very Broadway.
Yes.
That's a fun song. But here's what I love about this: that the bad guy in this one, as opposed to bad guys in all the other animated Disney films, they're always out for money and power and domination and so forth. The bad guy here, he lusts. It's all about lust. His evil is not that he covets something, but or not. He doesn't covet anything in a material sense, in an earthly sense. He covets, he's guilty. He's got, it's sin. It's like sort of conventional, traditional Judeo-Christian sin that is his failing, and I find that to be sort of existentially deep for an animated film. So I really like the film a lot.
Well, some of the themes here are much darker than what you usually see in Disney fare. So, again, Wade liked it a lot. To me, not as magical as Beauty and the Beast and some of the other ones during the Disney Renaissance, but still terrific. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Wade, not Hunchback of Notre Dame, you and your Frenchiness. Jesus Christ.
I am so surprised that nobody ever did a sketch on any of these shows, not on Mad TV or SNL. Nobody ever did The Hunchback of Notre Dame de Louise. Why didn't anyone ever do that? It writes itself, doesn't it?
The Hunchback of Notre James Coco. you miss James Coco.
I do miss James Coco.
How many people know who James Coco is? Terrible. Anyway, this is by the way, this does look great though. This is sort of pre-CGI. Hunchback of Notre Dame, super CGI, but it still looks great. So anyway, it's good. It's good stuff. You know what? I guarantee this is probably a Disney film that has slipped through the cracks of your collection.
Worth revisiting in a big way.
Because it's not a Pixar film, and
it's
not right there in that Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast wheelhouse, but it's still quite good. Also quite good is another film that came at the tail end of the Disney Renaissance, Mulan. And this comes
not such a fan, actually.
Really? You don't like this movie?
No, not such a fan.
Well, this comes in a 2 Blu-ray collection. Well, it's a Blu-ray and 2 DVDs, but there's Mulan and Mulan 2.
Yeah, again, forget about that.
By the way, I'm not making it. It's not Mulan 2 Electric Boogaloo, but there really is a Mulan 2.
That's too funny.
Just putting it out there. But what's funny is that, this movie almost sort of, it's a bit prescient because it deals in Chinese culture, and of course the Chinese movie-going audience has become very, very important, as we mentioned earlier, to American movie companies. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was very popular in China. Because it deals with China's past, and it deals with its themes of family, and it's about this poor peasant girl who disguises herself as a man to take her.
It's
her
Yentl.
father. Huh?
It's like a Chinese Yentl.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's very good.
I get it.
Anyway, it's good stuff. Again, this predates Super CGI, but it's still a great transfer. Mm-hmm. And the music here, again, wasn't.
Donny Osmond does the male voice singing. Not the speaking part, but the singing part.
Yeah,
what that's worth.
When you get Donny Osmond singing, you're sort of starting to reach the. Although Eddie Murphy's in this, this is Eddie Murphy's first big animated film character. He of course would go on to do the big Shrek donkey thing.
Yeah.
Here he does Mulan first. Anyway, good stuff. Not great stuff. Mulan and Mulan 2, which is not worth it.
Late Quartet is a film that was super briefly released in theaters last year. I don't think this ever really got an honest shot. I think when it didn't win any critics awards and didn't really seem to have a shot at Oscar nominations, they just kind of gave up on it, which I think is a mistake because it's a good cast. I mean, Christopher Walken and Philip Seymour Hoffman, Catherine Keener. I think it's a really, really good cast and an interesting little drama. Not genius by any means, but an interesting little film, basically about the machinations inside of a longtime veteran string quartet and the sort of the tensions and the relationships that transpire therein, especially when one of them appears to have issues that might force retirement. we'll leave it at that. But otherwise, great performances. Christopher Walken is always so good in drama. You forget how good he can be when he's not riffing on himself. Seriously, when he's not sort of playing the character that has become a parody, you know, when he's not doing an impression of himself, doing Kevin Spacey doing himself.
I think
he's great.
I think at this point he's so much older. He's done it all, and I think he's just going to do the easiest thing he can do.
And you know, Hoffman, he's always good. He's just fantastic. He's really fantastic. And Catherine Keener, when she's not doing a parody of herself, which she increasingly has begun to do.
Catherine Keener, who was so terrific in the in the early 2000s, she's
so
kind of
good.
Disappeared a little bit.
Yeah, you know, she painted the Kramer. You know that on Seinfeld.
Really?
Yeah,
she did not.
No, you know that. She was the character on Seinfeld who painted the
How many
portrait
Seinfelds have I watched in my life?
None.
Exactly.
Okay, never mind. So anyway, not to be confused with the film that's out right now that Dustin Hoffman directed called Quartet, which is kind of sort of similar in some very superficial respects about it. You know, a singing quartet that they're all old and they're at a rest home, and you know that's a whole different deal. But
wait, I'm going to make you feel old right now. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead. Make me feel old.
And by the way, I did this the other day on email when I said that who was it? Danny DeVito's 68 years old.
You sent me that. Thanks for that.
Dustin Hoffman, 75 years old.
I know.
Dustin,
Stop.
And Dustin Hoffman, by the way, I think that Dustin Hoffman, who's won 3 Oscars or something.
Yeah.
I think he's even underappreciated.
Yeah, that's true.
He is the best.
Yeah, he is.
He's
great.
Totally awesome. I mean, the only reason why I watched Sphere was to finally see Dustin Hoffman in a science fiction film. I just had to, and he's great. He's Dustin Hoffman. I love him. Love him.
He's good.
You know what? All these actors we grew up on, like Richard Dreyfuss, Dustin Hoffman, they're all getting older now.
I know.
You know,
and there's no one to replace them.
Who replaces these characters? I mean, there's Philip Seymour Hoffman. There's some good people out there.
There are.
Joaquin Phoenix, both from The Master. But still, look, here's the thing. We grew up on these people, so they mean a lot to us. Mm-hmm. You know, there was a time when we were 10 years old when our parents loved whoever, and we were like, man, they're just an old dude. No one cares about them. But that's who our parents grew up watching. Mm-hmm. Now, these are the actors we grew up watching. Dustin Hoffman. Who else? All these cool guys like Steve McQueen or Dustin Hoffman or Roy Scheider or Robert Shaw or Sean Connery. And you're like, they're just old dudes. Well, we grew up on them.
I know.
And we love them.
Roy Scheider, the 7-Ups.
French
Connection.
Well, the thing with the 7-Ups, look, the 7-Ups was made by the same producer specifically
for Roy Scheider.
For Roy Scheider, and specifically because he wanted to outdo the car chase from the French Connection.
Let's put it this way. It was not just to outdo the car chase. He specifically wanted to give people the fantasy of seeing a car go underneath a semi-trailer and have the top ripped off. That's exclusively what that was all about.
Which, by the way, they do that now all the time on CGI. So
I know.
With more CGI sparks and stuff flying off the car, so it doesn't mean as much. But in the 7-Ups, a car went under a truck.
I know.
And ripped its top off.
It's so awesome.
No CGI.
And no second take, by the way.
No second take. That's it.
That's it.
Awesome.
You know, Richard Mazer, who has been president of the Screen Actors Guild fairly recently, he acted in some movies once upon a time, and one of those movies was produced by Mike Nesmith of the Monkees, and again, it was directed by William Deere, who directed Harry and the Hendersons. I say this just to make everybody go, what? What movie would that be? That movie would be the cult classic from 1982, a classic year, by the way. 1982.
What happened?
1982.
Oh, the
nerd year.
The nerd year. Hang on.
Hit me.
E.T.
Yeah.
Blade Runner.
Yes.
Tron.
Yes.
And the one that personally activated my love of everything science fiction, Star Trek II.
And that's also the year, by the way, of Tootsie and Gandhi. I just want to point out, and Das Boot.
Yes.
And The Verdict.
Das Boot, by the way,
yes,
is German for the boat.
That's right. That was a great freaking year. 82 was an unbelievable year. But you know what else was released in 1982?
What?
Time Rider.
I remember that. I remember that movie for the poster, which, by the way, is maintained for the cover of the Blu-ray.
Yes, it's a classic poster. It's just the most bizarre time travel movie ever about a guy on an off-road motorcycle dirt biker guy who time travels himself back into the West. It's so bizarre. It's sort of like you wonder if this didn't inspire the last Back to the Future film, or the second Back to the Future film, the middle one in the trilogy where they go to the Wild West. You wonder if did you see Time Rider and decide you're just going to try to improve on it? It's such a bizarre movie. It's such a strange film, and Richard Mazur's in it along with Peter Coyote, and it's just really odd. Mike Nesmith did the score, and it also, by the way, sits down for an interview here. William Deere does a commentary. And it's, you know what, the film kind of sort of holds up. It is a total cult classic. The people who love this movie, they love the hell out of it. The Blu-ray is as good as I think you're going to get. It was not the best shot film in the first place. Shout Factory has done a decent job, and they licensed this from MGM, by the way, to get it out there. They did the olive film Twilight Time thing. But here's the thing. I have friends who are diehard fans of Time Rider who swear that the way this movie ends on the Blu-ray and the way it ended on the DVD is not the original theatrical ending. So I have not been able to confirm that. I have tried, and I've not been able to confirm it. So if there are any diehard Time Rider fans out there, email us at gods@digigods.com. Gods@digigods.com. Email us and tell us what your recollections are of how the film ends and what the story is here, because I've not been able to get the straight dope on this. So anyway, that being said, Mark is apparently trying to rub all of his fluids all over a Blu-ray that I'm not going to let him have.
What?
No way, dude. You don't understand. I live for that movie.
This movie is so effing good.
You've taken it out of order, but fine, go ahead, talk about it.
I don't care. Actually, this has been out for a couple of weeks, but we finally got it.
Yeah, it's been out for a few weeks.
The Insider from Michael Mann is
the best film Michael Mann ever made.
So effing good. This
best
movie.
Performance that Russell Crowe ever gave.
And early Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe wasn't quite Russell Crowe yet.
This is what put him on the map.
Oh yeah,
it really put him on the map as a real actor.
And what's funny, because like for this role, he had to gain a bunch of weight. He wasn't like Gladiator Russell Crowe, super handsome, whatever. I mean, now he's like kind of middle aged paunchy because now it's 2013.
Yeah, now he thinks he can sing.
And now he thinks,
and he's showing up in movie martial arts movies by the RZA, and he's playing Noah, and I don't know what he's thinking.
I don't know what he's thinking either. You know what? He's probably trying to resurrect his career by taking like the biggest, most bombastic leading parts he can to show that he still got it.
Yeah.
Anyway, The Insider was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director. It is the true story of a tobacco executive named Jeffrey Wigand who became a whistleblower.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
And it plays Al Pacino as Lowell Bergman, who was the
and Christopher Plummer as Mike Wallace. Give it up.
Even though it seems like, it's Christopher Plummer doing a Mike Wallace impersonation.
But he's so good because he captures that essence of Mike Wallace, that essence of I'm going to be snarky and I'm going to be mean and you're going to like me for it because I'm not going to let you go. Mike Wallace is the guy that would get you in a headlock and make you like love it.
You remember that scene in the movie where I think it was Bruce McCall? When it's the courtroom scene where Bruce McCall goes absolutely ballistic in trying to get somebody to answer his questions.
Yeah, that's great.
That gets an applause. I remember that got an applause when I saw the film. Projected, but I think it was Bruce McCall. I should check on that.
Great.
Anyway, Wade and I collectively cannot recommend The Insider enough.
Nope.
This is a classic. It is Michael Mann's best film, like Wade says, and it is a film that is unbelievably well crafted from beginning to end. It is one of Al Pacino's last decent performances.
It's true. It's true.
Although you know what's funny is that Al Pacino is playing Phil Spector in an HBO film.
Yeah.
Now that's a movie where at least Pacino has a reason to perform as Al Pacino.
Yes.
Because Phil Spector was so out there.
Yes.
Otherwise, that's all he does now. So at least maybe he's finding roles that where he can justifiably take that approach.
I'm just imagining Al Pacino wearing that wig. It's there. I mean, you can see this video. The thought of it is just, it's making me just giggle.
Anyway, I just absolutely positively think this is a masterpiece, The Insider, and you have to watch it or you cannot listen to this podcast anymore.
Freaking awesome. Also along the same lines, and these are all films from the Disney library that they're sort of not, they're like Touchstone films and they're Hollywood Pictures films, and they're not giving them the really A treatment because, I've ripped on Robert Iger on this show before, and this is one of the reasons. I think Iger has created a culture at Disney where they don't really care about films that aren't part of the Disney brand. So they're looking at their library, and I think they're sort of saying, that's not really a Disney film. People don't really identify that with Disney. We're not going to get a lot of traction out of it. And so they're underserving these films. I have an annual rating system that I use when I see movies. I saw 180 films last year. I don't know how many you saw. What was your
I
Your
stopped.
2012
I
life.
stopped counting.
Yeah.
Because I hate movies so much.
Yeah.
Because they're all so bad that all I do is I write down the ones I like and grade them, and the ones I don't like, I don't even grade them.
Well, I have to keep track so that I can put my lists together at the end of the year. So I saw more last year than I have in quite some time. I've been hovering around 140, 150 for a number of years. I saw 108, over 180 last year. It's a lot of damn movies. That's about a movie every other day. And I'm not talking about the stuff on DVD. I'm talking about theatrically released films. If you add the DVDs to them, then that's a whole different nightmare. So theatrically released movies, I saw 180 that were actually 2012 titles. In all the years that I've been doing this, over 20 years now, I have given a 100 rating to movies, like a perfect score. I think I've given that out maybe 4 or 5 times.
That's my boy, Adam Sandler.
Exactly. That's one of them. No, like Remains of the Day, I gave 100 to. The Piano, I gave 100. Farewell My Concubine, I gave 100. One of the movies that I gave 100 to, which, by the way, was also the same year as Remains of the Day, is this movie that the Disney people just decided to, here, throw it out on Blu-ray. See? Whatever. And I wish they had done a better job. I really do. It's not the best Blu-ray transfer. It deserves more. And this movie is The Joy Luck Club.
By the way, you know
This is an amazing film. It is a perfect film. It is a brilliant film.
Even though the hilarious part of the Joy Luck Club
Yeah.
is that it says this at the top.
An Oliver Stone production. Yes. Well, and that's basically there's a story behind that too, because Janet Yang ran Oliver Stone's company, and Janet Yang, who at one point was wasn't she co-chair at Sony briefly? Because she was partner. She was partners with Lisa Henson at one point, who I know ran things over at Sony. Anyway, Lisa Henson, of course, being Jim Henson's daughter. But this was Janet Yang who championed this because she's very passionate about Chinese American stories. Amy Tan wrote the novel, and Ronald Bass, who of course did this, wrote Rain Man, did the adaptation with Amy Tan, and Wayne Wang directed it. And it is a freaking brilliant movie. It's an unbelievable film, and you would think that they could never adapt this novel to a movie because it's essentially about a group of women, Chinese American women, mothers and daughters. The mothers are all immigrants and all have these stories, about things that happen to them and to their mothers and their grandmothers, and they're trying to pass these lessons on to their daughters who are having their own struggles in contemporary times. And it weaves all of these stories together in the past and the present, the mothers and the daughters, the grandmothers, within China and America, and it brings it all together in a finale. So help me, if you watch this movie and the last scene of this movie does not make you just absolutely start crying buckets, you're not a human being. This has one of the most powerful emotional endings of any movie I have ever seen. It is staggering how touching it is. A lot of people felt like it was too sentimental, and I think they're insane. The movie is also rated R for absolutely no good reason. For me to discuss why it's rated R, I'd have to give you a spoiler. I frankly have always said the rating system has a racist component to it, where if Asian people are seen doing something that it would be acceptable for any other race, but because Asians are just so benign, they're not supposed to be mean, they're not supposed to do cruel things or fight or whatever, then we're much more harsh on movies that have Asians doing certain things than we are if other races are doing them. I think that affected this movie as well. Should have been rated PG. There's no reason this is rated R. And it's a disgrace that it's rated R, and the ratings people should be ashamed of themselves. So a great movie on Blu-ray, not as well served as it should be a better transfer, but get it anyway because it's so incredibly brilliant.
So wait, did you like it?
I love it. I love this movie. I love The Joy Luck Club. It's so wonderful.
What should we talk about next?
Talk about that damn thing, because...
I don't like talking about this movie. You know why?
Why?
Because it requires that I talk about Olivia Wilde.
You know what? Speaking of Olivia Wilde, she's in that new what's it the magician thing with Steve Carell and
yes,
Jim
the
Carrey.
amazing Burt Wonderstone.
Which what is abratastic? That's their tagline. Abratastic.
Yeah,
really?
It's awesome.
Like even if you're just some kind of 13-year-old game playing douchebag who's like, yeah, Jim Carrey, he's that guy from The Office. You look at that and you go, oh my gosh, it's abratastic. Well, now I have to see it. What does abratastic mean? Who came up with that?
Well, if you don't
fire
know,
that person.
If you don't know,
what does the movie looks terrible?
I'm not going to tell you.
Olivia Wilde is in that movie.
By the way, I saw Olivia Wilde in person.
Yeah, how is she?
Well, okay.
Delicious?
Like when I saw her in Tron.
Delicious?
She's more delicious on screen than he is in person. In person, I mean, she's magnificently beautiful. What I'm saying is that, like, when I saw her in Tron,
yeah,
it was like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. This woman is my new everything.
There you go.
And then I saw her in person, and she was like unbelievably pretty. Mm-hmm. So she went from, oh my God, she's proof there's a God, to she's unbelievably pretty.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a downgrade in seeing her in person, but you know the top end was so high that really even the bottom end is still pretty impressive.
And there you go.
Anyway, in Deadfall, she and Eric Bana play brother and sister who have just knocked over a casino, and their getaway goes awry. Good supporting cast in this thing: Chris Christopherson and Sissy Spacek. You know, it's definitely a genre piece. I would consider it an above average genre piece. I think that thematically it could have done a little bit more, been a little bit more interesting regarding just families and brothers and sisters and how families fit together and break apart. So I will give it props for not being as mailed in as it probably would have been under other auspices. Directed by a guy whose name I can't pronounce. Steven Ruzowitzki.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's done.
That's a whole thing.
Before. He's done nothing since. But, you know, it's not bad. It's somewhere between, like, Simple Plan and, you know, certain episodes of The Sopranos, I guess. And it's got, like, kind of a classic, like, Western Showdown at the end.
Yeah.
But, anyway, it's not bad stuff. Deadfall, a decent genre piece. If you see it streaming on Netflix or whatever, you can give it a shout. It's not so bad. Deadfall.
All right. You know, Mark, this Bible thing is still going on, the Roma Downey, Mark Burnett deal that we talked about
last week.
We talked about that last week. Yeah, we talked about it. But it's still going on. It's like 10 weeks or whatever. You know, it's like it goes on endlessly. It's 10 hours.
Just like the Bible.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they're still releasing DVDs and Blu-rays to try and capitalize on that. One of them is One Night with the King, which is now on Blu-ray. My gosh, this is a silly movie. This is the biblical story of Esther with a whole bunch of people who really should know better showing up in this movie, including, like, freaking Omar Sharif and Peter O'Toole, and you just go, really? Seriously, guys? You're going to tarnish my memory of Lawrence of Arabia with that? And then, you know, like Tiny Lister. If somebody said to you, yeah, I saw this movie with Tiny Lister and Peter O'Toole, you're going to go, really? What? Anyway, not a terribly good movie. Most of these Bible movies just play it way too straight. They don't understand they're telling a story, and the Bible stories don't work as drama very well. But anyway, that's on Blu-ray for people who just really have a big gnarly Jones to check it out. Peter O'Toole and Omar Sharif get really prominent billing, even though they shouldn't get it. And then the other one is Cecil B. DeMille's Samson and Delilah, which has never been on DVD before, believe it or not. And this is such a silly movie, but somehow back in the 1940s, this is from 1949, Cecil B. DeMille made these things work. He took these biblical stories and he loaded them up with just sex and violence, and somehow the fact that they were Bible stories, everyone felt like it made it okay to watch it. Victor Mature is a terrible actor. I'm going to say that without any reservation. Victor Mature is a terrible actor, and Hedy Lamarr. Not Hedley Lamar, not to be confused. Not to be confused.
It's Hedley.
You know, who thought that these people would have chemistry? But I guess audiences at the time did, because this is basically one of those Bible films that did well enough to set DeMille up to do the Ten Commandments. Just about 7 years later. So that being said, I don't think it's a very good movie, but it's not a Blu-ray. It's a DVD from Paramount. And they're obviously hedging their bets and seeing if people buy this and if that justifies licensing the Blu-ray to Olive Films at some point, which is probably what would happen. But, you can check it out if you're just like a film history buff or something. Maybe that'll just feature...
Float your boat?
I guess it'll float your boat. And then lastly... we have very little time left. You know what? Lastly, I'm going to make...
flailing, Wade. You don't know what to talk about next.
We got a whole bunch of things we didn't get to. We're going to have to get to it next week. But lastly, let me make mention of the oscilloscope release of 28 Hotel Rooms, a movie that I don't particularly care for, but I like the people in it. Marin Ireland and Chris Messina. This is one of those movies that's just kind of an actor's conceit. It's about an affair between two people that takes place over a series of hotel rooms over a certain period of time, and it's how the relationship changes as they meet in a number of hotel rooms. Literally 28 hotel rooms. That's how they made the movie. That's how they made it inexpensively. They shot the movie in 28 hotel rooms. The reason to watch it is not because it's particularly unique or particularly good, because it's not. It doesn't really work as a story. It feels very contrived, but at the same time, the actors are really, really good. And Chris Messina, I like a lot. The guy does not get enough praise. He really doesn't. Chris Messina usually shows up as like the buddy or the brother. He's been in a ton of movies lately, most notably from my standpoint for Ruby Sparks. I thought he was terrific in Ruby Sparks.
You love that movie.
I love that movie. It's one of the most underrated movies of 2012. But that being said, you know what? Messina is a really, really good actor, and I love the fact that he sort of, and he was instrumental in getting this film made. So I love the fact that he here really does flex his chops as an actor, and he's very, very good. So for all its shortcomings, enjoy what the actors do. Oscilloscope gave this a very limited release, so you probably didn't see it. It's worth checking out on DVD. Probably more as a rental than anything else. With that, Mark, I think we're done.
What?
So go ahead, send us your Vox boxes and your new show openings and your emails to gods@digigods.com. We're here at gods@digigods.com. We'll see you guys next week. And that does it. So, meanwhile, please send us emails, vox boxes, and suggestions for new openings to gods@digigods.com, and include with those openings any plugs that you want us to do for your websites and your books and your movies and everything else. We are happy to do it. And with that, we will see you next week.